The sun hung low over the cracked expanse of the Sonoran Desert, painting the sky in hues of blood orange and violet as four weary travelers trudged through the sand. Their names were Mia, a sharp-witted journalist; Lucas, a rugged survivalist; Elena, a botanist with an uncanny knack for sensing danger; and Tariq, a tech-savvy drone operator. They'd been hiking for days, chasing rumors of an ancient Apache relic said to hold otherworldly power, hidden deep within a labyrinth of canyons. Their water was nearly gone, their maps useless in the shifting dunes, and the weight of desperation pressed harder with every step. Mia clutched her notebook, scribbling fragments of the legend she'd pieced together from elders in a nearby reservation, a towering figure, half man, half spirit, guarding a sacred site. Lucas, ever skeptical, scoffed at the tale, insisting they were chasing a mirage, but Elena's uneasy glances at the horizon suggested otherwise. As night fell, the air grew heavy, not just with heat but with something alive, watching. Tariq's drone, buzzing overhead, suddenly sputtered and crashed into a jagged outcrop, its screen flashing a single word before dying: "Run." They froze, hearts pounding, as the ground trembled beneath them. A low, guttural hum echoed from the canyon walls, "Not quite human, not quite beast," Mia whispered. "It's real," her voice barely audible over the rising wind. Lucas gripped his machete, scanning the shadows, while Elena pointed to a faint glow pulsing from a narrow crevice ahead. They had no choice but to move toward it, drawn by an inexplicable pull. Even as the hum grew louder, more insistent, Tariq stammered, "What if the stories are true? What if it's not just a relic, but a broken bar, something alive?" No one answered, but the question hung like a blade. The crevice loomed closer, its glow now blinding, and the air crackled with static, as if the desert itself was holding its breath. Then, from the darkness beyond, two glowing eyes emerged, massive, unblinking, and fixed on them. The group stumbled back, their screams swallowed by the wind, as a colossal silhouette rose against the starlit sky, its form unmistakably human yet impossibly vast. The giant Apache, cloaked in shadows and dust, stood motionless, its presence radiating a primal terror that rooted them to the spot. Mia's notebook slipped from her hands, pages fluttering into the void, as the figure's gaze seemed to pierce their souls. They were no longer hunters of a legend, they were prey. Too, the giant's silhouette towered over the canyon, its edges blurring into the night like smoke, yet its presence was solid, undeniable. Mia's breath caught as she tried to make sense of the figure. Its limbs were long, sinewy, draped in what looked like ancient woven cloth, adorned with beads that glinted faintly in the moonlight. Lucas, ever defiant, raised his machete, shouting, "We're not afraid of you." But his voice cracked, betraying his fear. Elena grabbed his arm, hissing, "Don't provoke it." Her eyes darted to the crevice, where the pulsing glow had intensified, casting airy patterns on the canyon walls. Tariq fumbled with his backup drone, hoping to capture footage, but the device sparked and died in his hands, as if the air itself rejected technology. The giant Apache took a single step, and the ground shook, sending pebbles skittering. Its eyes, like twin moons, never wavered, and Mia felt a strange pull, as if it was seeing not just her body but her thoughts, her fears, her past. She remembered the Elder's warning: the Guardian does not kill without reason, but its judgment is final. The hum from before returned, now a deep, resonant whisper that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Words formed, not in their ears but in their minds, ancient and heavy. "You seek what is not yours." Elena gasped, clutching her head, while Lucas staggered, his machete clattering to the ground. Tariq whispered, "It's talking to us," his voice trembling. Mia, fighting the urge to collapse, stepped forward, her journalist's instinct overriding her terror. "We mean no harm," she called out, her voice echoing strangely in the canyon. "We only want to understand." The giant tilted its head, as if considering her words, and the whisper came again, "Understanding comes at a price." The glow from the crevice flared, revealing carvings on the walls of spirals, figures, and symbols that seemed to writhe in the light. Elena, the botanist, noticed something else. The sparse desert plants near the crevice were moving, their roots twisting upward, as if alive. She whispered, "This place is a broken bar. It's not just sacred, it's awake." The group exchanged glances, realizing they were no longer in control. The giant raised a hand, and the air thickened, pressing against their chests. Mia's mind raced as she'd read about Apache guardians, spirits tied to the land. But this was no myth. It was real, and it was judging them. The whisper returned. Colder now. Choose one to stay, or all will perish. The words hung like a noose, and the group turned to each other, eyes wide with dread. 3. The giant's ultimatum echoed in their minds, each word a weight that threatened to crush them. Mia's pulse thundered as she glanced at her companions, their faces pale under the glow of the crevice. Lucas clenched his fists, his survivalist bravado crumbling under the giant's gaze. This is insane, he muttered. We're not sacrificing anyone. Elena's eyes were fixed on the ground, where the desert plants continued their unnatural dance, their roots curling toward the group like fingers. Tariq, trembling, whispered, "It's testing us, isn't it? Like some kind of trial." Mia nodded, her journalist's mind piecing together fragments of the Apache legend. The elders had spoken of a guardian who demanded sacrifice and not always blood, but something precious, something that proved respect for the land. She stepped forward, her voice shaking but firm. "What do you want from us?" she asked the giant. The air shimmered, and the whisper returned. Truth. The word was simple, but its weight was immense, as if it demanded more than words could carry. The crevice's glow pulsed faster, and the carvings on the walls seemed to shift, telling a story of a people betrayed, their sacred places desecrated by outsiders who took without giving. Mia felt a pang of guilt as she'd come here chasing a story, fame, maybe even truth, but had she considered the cost? Lucas, ever pragmatic, snapped, "We don't have time for riddles. Tell us what to do." The giant's eyes flared, and the ground shook again, forcing him to his knees. Elena grabbed Mia's arm, whispering, "It's not just about us. This place, it's alive. Connected to the Guardian. We're intruders." Tariq, still clutching his broken drone, added, "Maybe it wants something we brought, a broken bar, something we value." The group rummaged through their packs of water, tools, Mia's notebook, Tariq's tech, but nothing seemed significant enough. Then Elena pulled out a small vial of seeds, rare desert plants she'd collected for study. "These," she said, her voice barely audible, "they belong here." She approached the crevice, offering the vial to the glow. The giant watched, motionless, as the roots from the desert plants reached up, wrapping around the vial and pulling it into the earth. The whisper returned. "One truth given, more are required." The group exchanged uneasy glances. What else could they offer? Mia's mind raced, wondering if the truth the giant sought was not an object but something deeper, something personal. 4. The canyon seemed to close in around them, the walls pulsing with the crevices light as the giant Apache stood sentinel, its gaze unrelenting. Mia's heart pounded as she realized the Guardian's demand for truth wasn't about physical offerings alone. The air grew heavier, thick with the scent of sage and something older, like the memory of forgotten rituals. Lucas, still on his knees, muttered, "This is a trap. It's playing with us." But Elena shook her head, her eyes fixed on the carvings, which now seemed to depict a procession of figures offering gifts to a towering silhouette. "It's not a trap," she said. "It's a test of intent." Tariq, clutching his broken drone like a lifeline, stammered, "What if it wants a broken bar, us, our secrets, our guilt?" The idea hit Mia like a blow as she'd spent years chasing stories, exposing others' truths while guarding her own. She thought of the Elder's warning, "The Guardian sees what you hide." The whisper returned, "Colder now, speak your truth, or the desert will claim you." Mia's mind flashed to a memory she'd buried, a story she'd published that ruined a source's life, all for a headline. She stepped forward, her voice trembling. "A broken bar. I used someone's trust to get ahead," she confessed, the words burning her throat. "I didn't care about the consequences." The crevice's glow softened, and the ground stilled, as if the desert had exhaled. The giant's eyes narrowed, but it said nothing. Lucas, emboldened, stood and shouted, "Fine. I've cheated to survive via stolen supplies, left people behind. That's who I am." His voice cracked, raw with shame. The carvings shifted again, showing a figure kneeling, unburdened. Elena, tears in her eyes, whispered, "I ignored my instincts once, let a forest burn for my research. I was selfish. Tariq hesitated, then admitted, I hacked systems for money, hurt people I never met. Each confession seemed to lighten the air, but the giant's whisper returned. One remains untruthful. The group froze, looking at each other. Who was lying? Or worse, who was hiding something deeper? The roots around the crevice writhed faster, and the glow pulsed like a heartbeat. Mia's mind raced. Had she held back, or was it one of the others? The giant raised its hand, and the canyon walls rumbled, dust cascading like a warning. They had little time left. 5. The rumbling grew louder, a deep groan from the earth itself, as if the canyon was impatient for their final truth. Mia's pulse raced, her mind replaying every moment of their journey, searching for what they'd missed. The giant Apache's eyes glowed brighter, its silhouette seeming to grow, filling the canyon with an oppressive presence. Lucas, his bravado gone, whispered, we've given everything. What more does it want? Elena's gaze started to the carvings, now showing a single figure standing alone before the guardian, head bowed. It's not about what we've done, she said, her voice trembling. It's about why we're here. Tariq nodded, his hands shaking as he dropped the remains of his drone. We came for glory, didn't we? For fame, for proof, for something to claim. Mia felt a chill as she'd convinced the group to chase this relic, driven by her own ambition to break the biggest story of her career. She stepped forward, her voice barely steady. I brought us here, she said. I wanted the truth, but I also wanted to be the one to tell it. I didn't care about this place, only what it could give me. The giant's whisper returned, softer now. Truth accepted. The crevice's glow dimmed, and the roots stilled, but the guardian's gaze shifted to the others. Elena, her face paled, said, I wanted to study the relic, to make my name in science. I didn't think about the land. Tariq added, I wanted footage, something viral, something to make me famous. Lucas hung his head. I just wanted to prove I could survive anything, be the best. The carvings glowed faintly, as if acknowledging their words, but the giant's voice boomed, one truth remains. The group froze, confusion turning to dread. They'd all confessed it, hadn't they? Mia's eyes darted to the crevice, where the glow was now a faint pulse, almost like a dying star. She realized the guardian wasn't just testing their honesty but their unity. Someone was still holding back, or perhaps the truth it sought was collective, something they hadn't faced together. The ground trembled again, and the giant stepped closer, its shadow swallowing them. Speak, or be judged, it whispered. Mia's mind raced. Maybe the truth wasn't just personal but about why they'd come as a group, what they represented. Were they here to take, like so many before them? 6. The giant's shadow loomed larger, its edges fraying into the night like smoke, yet its presence was a physical weight, pressing against their chests. Mia's mind spun, grasping at the elders' stories. The guardian didn't just protect the relic but the balance of the land itself. Their confessions had been personal, raw, but perhaps the final truth was about their collective sin intruding on a sacred place without permission, without reverence. She glanced at her companions, their faces etched with fear and exhaustion. We're not just individuals, she said, her voice hoarse. We came here together, acting like this place owes us something. Elena nodded, catching on. We didn't ask the land, the people, for anything. We just took. Tariq's eyes widened, like colonizers, like the stories in the carvings. Lucas, his jaw tight, added, we thought we could walk in, grab a relic, and leave. We didn't respect it. The giant's eyes flared, and the whisper returned. Truth spoken. The crevice's glow stabilized, no longer pulsing erratically, and the roots retreated into the earth. But the guardian didn't move, its gaze still piercing. Mia felt a flicker of hope. Had they passed the test? Then the whisper came again, sharp and final. One must stay to restore balance. The words hit like a thunderclap. Mia's stomach dropped as she realized the guardian's price wasn't just truth but sacrifice. The group exchanged panicked glances, their unity fracturing. Lucas snapped, no way. We're all leaving. But Elena's voice was quiet, resolute. Someone has to stay, or we all die. Tariq clutched his pack, whispering, "This is crazy. We can't just a broken bar choose." Mia's mind raced as she'd led them here, pushed them into this. Was it her responsibility? The carvings shifted again, showing a figure standing alone, not in defeat but in acceptance. The giant raised its hand, and the canyon walls glowed, revealing a path deeper into the crevice. "Choose," it whispered, "or I will." Mia's heart pounded. Could she volunteer? Could she ask someone else too? The group stood frozen, the weight of the decision crushing them as the desert waited. 7. The canyon was silent now, save for the faint hum of the giant's presence, its eyes like beacons in the dark. Mia's throat tightened as she looked at her companions, each grappling with the impossible choice. The crevices glow cast long shadows, and the carvings seemed to pulse with life, urging them toward a decision. Elena stepped forward, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "I'll stay," she said. "I've studied this land, taken from it. Maybe I can give something back." Lucas grabbed her arm, his voice rough. "No, you can't just, and nobody's staying." Tariq's eyes darted between them, his tech-driven logic failing him. "There has to be another way," he stammered. Mia's heart sank as she admired Elena's courage but couldn't let her bear the burden alone. "Wait," she said, stepping toward the giant. "If it's about balance, maybe it's not about one of us staying forever. Maybe it's about giving something to the land, not taking." The giant tilted its head, its whisper soft but clear. "Speak." Mia's mind raced, piecing together the elders' stories and the carvings' imagery. "We came to take a relic, but what if we leave something instead? Something that honors this place?" She pulled out her notebook, the one she'd poured her ambitions into, and held it out. "This is my truth, my drive. I'll leave it here, let the desert keep it." Elena nodded, pulling out another vial of seeds. "These belong to the land, not a lab." Tariq hesitated, then offered his drone's memory card, filled with footage he'd hoped would make him famous. Lucas, reluctant, pulled a carved knife from his belt, a trophy from his survivalist days. They placed their offerings at the crevice's edge, and the roots reached up, pulling them into the earth. The giant's eyes dimmed, and the whisper came. Balance restored. The ground stilled, and the crevice's glow faded, leaving only starlight. The giant stepped back, its form dissolving into the canyon walls, as if it had never been there. The group stood, breathless, waiting for a sign it was over. 8. The canyon was still, the giant gone, its presence now only a memory etched into their minds. Mia and the others stood at the crevice's edge, staring at where their offerings had vanished. The air felt lighter, the oppressive weight lifted, but none of them moved, as if afraid to break the fragile peace. The carvings on the walls were still now, their stories complete, showing figures walking away from the guardian, unburdened. Elena whispered, "Did we do it? Are we broken bar free?" Lucas, his usual bravado absent, nodded slowly. "Feels like it." Tariq checked his pack, half expecting his drone to spark back to life, but it remained dead, a reminder of what they'd given up. Mia looked at the empty space where her notebook had been, feeling both loss and relief. She'd come for a story but left with something deeper, a humbling respect for the land and its guardians. The group turned from the crevice, the path out of the canyon now clear under the starlit sky. As they walked, Mia thought of the elder's words, "The guardian doesn't take without giving." She realized they'd gained something, a perspective, unity, a truth they couldn't have found anywhere else. The desert stretched endless before them, no longer hostile but alive, watching. They moved in silence, their footsteps soft on the sand, each carrying the weight of what they'd faced. The giant's whisper lingered in their minds, not as a threat but a promise. The land would remember them, as they would remember it. As dawn broke, painting the horizon gold, Mia glanced back one last time, half expecting to see the giant's eyes. But there was only the canyon, ancient and eternal, guarding its secrets for those wise enough to listen.